Hey, what up, guys? Excuse me. Coming here this morning with another 2019 year-end top 10. In this video, we're starting the number 2 division in boxing, and personally, my favorite division overall. It's the division I grew up on, and many people my generation did with Mike Tyson and Lennox Lewis, the heavyweight division. I love the heavyweights. This video, we're gonna talk about the 2 dropouts that we had, and we're gonna discuss numbers 7 through 10. So let's jump right into it. We start with the 2 dropouts. These guys were ranked coming into the year, and they are no longer ranked. The first of them is 31-year-old undefeated top contender Jarrell Miller. Miller entered the year number 10. I had him right at the back of the year. He had done some decent work in 2018 to work himself in line. And Miller had a golden opportunity in 2019 as he was supposed to fight Anthony Joshua for the heavyweight title. But he ended up failing 3 different tests, and that cost him his world title shot. And he also took a suspension, so he ended up not even fighting at all in 2019. So a bad year. But Miller is a big shit talker, and he's got a name, and he's not a bad fighter. So he should get decent opportunity in 2020 to get back in the mix. I don't see him landing a world title shot, but you never know. Again, he's a big guy. He's flashy. He's undefeated, so he could. And we just got to wait and see what the governing bodies decide to do and what fights he can land. So he's, like I said, he's 31. He's trying to make a splash, and 2020's got to be some kind of a bounce back year as he tries to prove that he belongs. The next fighter dropping out of the top 10, and the final fighter dropping out of the top 10 is former world title challenger Bryant Jennings of the United States. Jennings entered the year at number 9 and was coming off of a 2018 where he got himself back in the mix. He went undefeated. He closed the year out in August with a hard-fought but knockout victory over Alexander Dimitrenko, big guy, and that put him in line for he was hoping for something big. In January, he took on undefeated Oscar Rivas, and he came in the favorite. I didn't think he was going to lose this fight, and to be honest, he was winning on points, but it was a good close battle, and at the end, he just faded, and in the 12th round, Rivas scored a come-from-behind knockout victory and stopped Jennings. But Jennings didn't let that get him down. He came back and took on undefeated rising prospect Joe Joyce, and he fought his ass off for 12 rounds. He didn't let Joyce knock him out, but he dropped a one-sided decision. And now at age 35, I don't see Jennings returning to the top 10. Back-to-back losses. I think he should contemplate retirement at this point. And if he doesn't, take a little bit of time off, make sure he's ready to come back and have one last run in the heavyweight division. So we'll see what he decides to do. But that's Bryant Jennings. And now let's jump into the top 10 and take a look at who's sitting there. We start off with, we have a 2-way tie for 10th now. First of those 2 is a guy who entered the year number 8. He drops a couple spots. He is former world title challenger Kubrat Pulev. Pulev entered the year the IBF's mandatory number 1 contender. He was in line to fight Anthony Joshua for the title. Joshua was making an optional defense against Andy Ruiz in June, and then Pulev was supposed to be next. That all got ruined when Andy Ruiz scored his monster upset over Anthony Joshua. It all got ruined, and that pushed it back. So Pulev, he fought in March before that and had a pretty good, solid fight with Bogdan Dainu. He got cut in that fight and he got stunned, but he came back and knocked Dainu out in the 7th round, proved he was a better man. He returned after the Ruiz fight. He decided just to stay busy in November, and as I actually got to see this fight live in Fresno. He took on Rydell Booker, little-known veteran, and it was just a workman-like fight. He just didn't look great, but he did enough to win by a convincing decision. Booker was not even in the same class as Pulev, and Pulev got the win. No surprise there, and is still the mandatory number 1 contender. Well, for all intents and purposes, Pulev is going to be fighting Anthony Joshua next. As he enters 2020, it looks like he's going to get that golden opportunity. Now, he's 38 years old, so he's going to get this opportunity, and he needs to cash in on it. if he wants to do anything. His record stands at 28-1 with 14 knockouts. His only loss is to Vladimir Klitschko. But he needs to make his splash. He really does. Because I don't think he's going to get another opportunity after this. Here's the thing. He's supposed to fight Anthony Joshua next, but Anthony Joshua is waiting to announce anything because he wants to see what the WBO is going to do about his mandatory status to that division. But from what I'm hearing is he's going to fight Pulev no matter what and defend his title against Pulev, hold on to that belt, and then we'll see what happens after that. Pulev's going to get his chance. So I don't think Pulev is going to beat Anthony Joshua. I think Joshua is going to knock him out. And after he does, I think Pulev's done. I think that's going to be it for him. But we'll see. We'll see what he decides to do. We'll see if he gets back in the ring. And, the opportunity is going to be there for him. And at 38, it has to be now if he's going to become a world champion. Next, and finishing the year, tied with Kubrat Pulev for number 10, is former cruiserweight world title challenger, Michael Hunter of the United States. Hunter entered the year coming off wins in 2019, 2018, where he just stayed busy and got wins, but he hadn't really done much, and he decided to make a full move to heavyweight in 2019. And he took on Fabiel Maldonado, got a second-round TKO in that fight. Then in September, he returned and took on little-known Sergey Kuzmin and got a 12-round unanimous decision. This led him to a big fight in December on the Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz rematch card on DAZN out in Saudi Arabia, where he would take on former world champion Alexander Povetkin. And he came in an underdog, but a lot of people thought he could make some noise, and he did that. He went out there, boxed his ass off, fought well. He hurt Povetkin a couple times. He got hurt in the process. It was a great back-and-forth battle. They went at it. He closed the fight stronger. But when the fight went to the distance, and when the judges came back, it was scored a draw. Nobody really complained about it. It was a close, hard-fought battle between the two. Nobody really complained. And now Michael Hunter, though, in my opinion, that's kind of like a win, fighting to a draw with Povetkin. But it didn't really get him anything other than where he's been. So we're going to see now what happens. If he gets another opportunity at Pulev, if he gets an opportunity against another heavyweight, which I think he will, because Michael Hunter's not really viewed as a threat because he's a smaller heavyweight. He came from cruiserweight. His only loss is to Alexander Usyk for the cruiserweight title a few years ago. He's 18-1-1. His best ranking in any governing body. He's number 7 in both the WBA and the IBF. I could see him getting into a final eliminator against somebody, but he's going to have to try to earn that, and I think he just needs to stay busy. But he really does need a push to try to get Povetkin in the ring. But I think that's all going to revolve around what Dillian White does in his next fight in April, because White's supposed to come back in April, and I know Povetkin's on the short list to face Dillian White. So we got to wait and see. But Michael Hunter just needs to keep his name out there, and I think he'll get another top 10 opponent in the ring and get a chance to move in line for a world title. Next, and finishing the year number 9, is the former WBA champion, Alexander Povetkin. Now, he entered the year number 7, so he drops one spot. But Povetkin was coming off of 2018, where he challenged Anthony Joshua, and he got knocked out. It was he fought hard, but he suffered the second loss of his career. He got caught and knocked out decisively. And nobody was really thinking that Povetkin was going to come back. He contemplated retirement, but he decided he was going to make one last run. But people weren't really sure how serious he was. He didn't return until the end of August when he took on Hughie Fury. Some people thought Fury was going to win this fight, but Povetkin went out and showed him that he still got what it takes, as he just outworked Fury. Fury fought well, but Povetkin just fought better and scored a hard-fought 12-round unanimous decision. This got him an opportunity to compete against Michael Hunter in December on the Andy Ruiz-Anthony Joshua rematch card on DAZN, and it ended up being a co-feature, and it was a really good fight between the two. Two went at it. He hurt Michael Hunter early. It looked like he was going to put him away early, but Hunter fought his ass off. Povetkin, he looked like the older fighter, because he is, but he still fought at a high level, and he still can, and the fight went the distance, ended up getting scored a draw. Povetkin still in the mix after that, though. and we'll see what happens next. That's how he closed out his year. So I still like Povetkin. I still think he can. I still think he can be competitive against anybody in the sport right now. You know, I really do, because he's got pop and he has good timing, and that's what's made him a contender ever since pretty much 2006. He's been banging around. So he's been 13, 14 years. He's been a top 10 heavyweight for a long time there. He was a top 5 heavyweight, and he actually competed with Anthony Joshua last year and did well. So we just got to wait and see what opportunity he gets next. Now, he enters this year 40 years old now. Can he do it at age 40? Can he get the job done still and get himself back in line for a world title shot? I think he's going to get the opportunity in 2020 to try to get there. Dillian White has talked about him as a possible opponent. He's on White's short list for when White returns in March or April. And, you know, there's also a possibility of a rematch with Michael Hunter. I think he's going to go after a bigger opportunity, though, because of his age. Running it back with Hunter, I think that's going to be like a last resort type thing, but he could still do it, and I still think he'd have a good chance of scoring a win. So just got to wait and see. But again, Povetkin, he's fighting on DAZN. He's going to get opportunities against some solid fighters, and I definitely expect to see him in the ring against a top 10 opponent. I don't think he'll get a title shot this year, but he could work himself in line for one final title shot, possibly in 2021. So we'll see what happens. Next up, finishing the year number 8 is former WBO champion Joseph Parker of New Zealand. Parker came into the year at number 6, so he drops 2 spots. But it was basically because of inactivity. He struggled to find opposition. In 2018, he had lost the WBO title to Anthony Joshua when they attempted to unify belts. But he was the first guy to take, and still the only guy to take he was the first guy to take Anthony Joshua to 12 rounds. Andy Ruiz did that this year. But his stock went up in terms of overall when Andy Ruiz scored the knockout over Anthony Joshua. So his stock went up without him even being in the ring. He returned in June, later on in June, took on Alex Leopai, former world title challenger, in his DAZN debut with Matchroom. Dominated Leopai, scored a 10th round TKO impressively, and is now in line for a possible, he's currently the WBO's number 2 contender right now. The WBO just recently re-ranked their fighters, and he's number 2. Right now, it's really up in the air on what is going to go on with him next, but it's really up to the WBO and what the WBO decides. If the WBO decides that that he deserves, decides to strip Anthony Joshua of their title, because the WBO has ordered Joshua to face Alexander Usyk, and Joshua is supposed to be facing Kubrat Pulev next. If they order that fight, then that's going to spell bad news for Joshua, but that's going to be, it could be good news for Joseph Parker, as he might be able to, since he's the number 2 contender, he would then be ordered to face Alexander Usyk for the vacant title. So a big opportunity there. If they don't and Joshua is allowed to hold on to the belt, then Usyk would probably go in another direction, but Parker can get in line and possibly be the mandatory challenger by the end of the year. If that happens, if the WBO grants that, I don't think Parker's going to get a title shot in 2020. He's one of those guys that they want to stay away from because he's a good boxer, and he also has some decent power. He's a guy, though, that can take a punch, too. So he's kind of an ugly out, even if you fight him. So I just think he needs to keep grinding, keep chugging away. He's on DAZN now with Matchroom, so he'll get opportunities. Maybe Alexander Povetkin. There's guys there for him to fight if he can't land the big fights. And I think by the end of the year, if he doesn't get a world title shot, he needs to make himself a mandatory challenger. He's still very young, though. That's the good thing about him. He's only 27 years old. He's 26-2 with 20 knockouts. His only losses were to Anthony Joshua by unanimous decision, and then he lost to Dillian White right after that by a very close split decision in a great fight. He almost knocked White out. So Parker's a real deal. He's a good fighter, and with opportunity this year, he could put himself right back in the mix, and I would make him a very live underdog if he gets a shot at Alexander Usyk for the vacant WBO title. We got to wait and see, but he's going to be fighting on DAZN one way or the other. All right, guys, I'm going to stop the video there. We'll stop with number 8. We'll come back with numbers 4, 5, 6, and 7. I hope you enjoyed this. That's a 2019 year-end top 10s, the heavyweight division. True Boxing, you've been hit with the truth.